Hello, everyone. It's another Friday, and what a week it has been. Goodness, I don't know where to start. We've got so much cool content coming your way. We think it's cool. Hopefully you do as well. You may or may not know that we are hoping to focus on something special for Halloween. So basically for October, we're calling it All Hallows Month, and hopefully we'll have at least one, definitely one, because we've started recording already, but hopefully more Halloween-y games coming on, which should be fun. Also, we have started recording a little series about our favorite game, Symbaroum. Basically a deep dive into what the game is, what the world's like, how to play it, and then as time progresses, hopefully a little bit about the epic campaign Throne of Thorns as well. So that's what's coming up over the next few months. What about today? Well, for those of you that don't already know, this is our regular Friday show where we talk about Kickstarters, RPG news, and basically just have a chat. So without further ado, we should probably bring on our friends for this evening. So with Devious Dungeons, Foreboding Forests, and The Coolest Cats. Welcome to the Dark Orb. Hey!
Evening.
Friend.
Evening all.
Oh, how's it all going?
Yeah, not too shabby. How about yourself?
It has been a long week. A surprisingly long week in many ways. We are going through the rigmarole, as I've said before, of trying to move. That's going less quickly than we would like, but it's moving forwards. As I said, we've started recording some cool stuff. I'm really looking forward to bringing that to the stream. There's more to come as and when we unlock it. So please, if people watching are excited to see us delve into the world of Cult Divinity Lost for the first time, or if you're interested in seeing our Symbaroum stuff, or if you just like Kickstarters, crowdfunded games, role-playing games, 3D printy stuff, any of that sort of stuff, please please subscribe, help us to earn XP and level up the channel. Oh, what have you been up to this week?
Oof. Well, I've been working on my my source book as well. I've got
ketchup, mayonnaise,
a little teaser of 6 worlds out of the possible 36 I'm going to have in it.
This is for the weird space role-playing game that you published, right?
That is correct, yes. And it's going to have a couple of different little miniatures with it as well as, which, as you've already mentioned, will be 3D printed or 3D printable.
Oh, yes.
Got the that down there. At the moment, we've got the muscle of the group, which you might have already seen on Twitter and Facebook with the Rend miniature, ginormous alien. Next one on the list, we've already got the 2D mock-ups already sorted out. It's going to be the medic of the spaceship crew as well.
Nice.
A doctor that's found himself an arcane tome of all kinds of dark necromantic magics.
Necromancy magic, yeah?
Yes, and he's very happy now that not one person has ever gone onto his operating table and not walked off it, one way or another.
Better to have walked off it than not, I say. Sounds pretty good. So, you've had a busy one then. Plus, of course, all the whole adulting stuff as well.
Being a grown-up, yeah.
Yeah, it's not as fun as it looked when we were kids, eh?
Yeah. Well, saying that, next weekend I'm going to go to my first LARP event for 2 years.
Nice.
Real
life. Something that's not on a screen. Does that happen?
Yes. Actual real life with a foam sword and actually being able to hit things with said foam sword. It's called Northern Kingdoms. It's based in the Witcher universe, and it's going to be brilliant.
Sounds a bit nerdy fantasy geek stuff to me. I'm not sure that that's really up my street.
Is it the wrong thing for this channel? Yeah.
Yeah, stop being social. You know, we've made our entire I would say business, but we don't make any money. We've made our entire niche around the fact that we're all stuck at home. So stop that right now, lad. Of course, if you would like to help us to lose less money, then we do have a Patreon that's now running. So every penny counts, even if it's only a small donation. Neil, what are you up to?
Much the same, without the fun LARP to look forward to. I've been doing a bit of adulting, but I've been doing a bit of gaming stuff this week. I had an epic Simbroom session on Tuesday. Simbroom, and first time I knew it was coming, but we had a character death. And this is a character same character that's been in the campaign since the beginning. It's like 3 years. So it was quite a sort of moving, very memorable session.
And it just goes to show that no matter how maxed out you might feel your party are, it only takes one wrong dice roll. And certainly in Simbroom, you can have things like I'm saying this with a little bit of background knowledge, but things like corruption, etc., just builds up over time, and it's not that easy to get rid of once you've got it. Can be done, but it's risky.
And I think it's good that characters can die in long campaigns. Personally, I know some people don't like that, but I think that's a good thing. I agree. Keeps the risk and keeps the kind of excitement. And obviously the player's going to carry on playing. He's rolled up a new character, and so it's all good. It's all good.
Cool. I was curious if either of you had anything in the post this week. It's a loaded question because I did.
I didn't, but tell me, Phil, did you?
No, not at all. I had a couple of things actually. I had this I was expecting, and I'm not going to show everything because there's quite a lot of things and I've hidden most of them away. But I did receive Deadlands Blood Drive.
Ooh.
And some interesting artifacting on this. That's strange. I'll have to have a look and see what's going on there. Bear with me. Why is it doing that? There we go. That's better. So this is a campaign for Deadlands. And yeah, basically it's exactly that. So I think the idea is that your party is on a castle drive and things go wrong. It is an old campaign that has been redone for the new Deadlands system. And it came with a whole load of other things like standees and maps and that sort of stuff. And yeah, I was expecting it to come in a box because the original box set is here, big old box, but also, and I don't know if I've got them to hand. Yes, so up here you can also see there's the headstone, the horror on Headstone Hill, which is like a campaign that came with the original Kickstarter, and that's in a box. So I think I and many people who backed this campaign presumed it would also be in a box set. So that's a little disappointing just in terms of consistency, I guess. But it is, as they say, it is what it is. That's what we got. The other thing actually was a surprise. I had two things. Number one, I hadn't realized it had been shipped, even though actually I got an email for it, which it went into junk, so I didn't see it. And the other was that I'd forgotten, or rather I hadn't realized that it came with something else. Before I jump into that, we must very quickly say hello to our good friend Martin.
Hello.
Good to see you. I'm loving that t-shirt of yours.
It's excellent, isn't it? It's what a lovely design. It's fantastic.
So if you'd
I wonder where I got it.
I wonder if you would like the Dark Orb t-shirt or any other merchandise, then we do have a RedBubble store. Link is down below. Also, there are some physical levels on the Patreon for the upper tiers. So if you want to go that route, T-shirt isn't currently on there, but that might change. Just so you know. How are you, Martin?
Good. Yes.
Excellent.
Sorry for coming in a little bit late there.
Well,
apologies.
We'll let you off. Did you get any Kickstarters or anything in the post this week?
No, I didn't. I've got
Shocking.
I've got a long list of Kickstarters to come. I do have a backer kit that I need to fill out actually for some rather spiffy looking dice that I haven't yet done. Sorry, Neil.
Yes, we should talk about that. The Paladin role playing, other Paladins are available. They had a Kickstarter for dice, which we've never talked about ever.
No.
On any of the Kickstart Your Weekends previously.
It would be a first.
It would be a first. And I too backed that for, I think it was 3 sets of dice. And I'm having some anxiety or analysis paralysis over what to choose there. So I should probably deal with that, really. But yeah.
It's easy for me. I'm just getting 4 sets of Red Dwarf, so
Red Dwarf.
Like no analysis paralysis. It's like
4 identical dice, and then no one can complain that they've got different dice, right?
No, exactly. It's for my kids and you're well. So
yes, our long-term supporter, you're well. I don't know if you caught the beginning of the show, Martin, but I did mention that we have started recording Cult Divinity Lost.
Oh, really? I wonder who's in that.
I wonder. Yes. How did you find, without any spoilers, how did you find those first 2 episodes?
Yeah, good. I'm interested to see where the story goes. Especially the next session. The very beginning of it, we left off on a little bit of a cliffhanger.
There are a couple of cliffhangers. We've recorded 2 episodes, and the intention is that we'll start streaming those in October for what we're calling All Hallows Month. So hopefully we'll have some more stuff as well. I received something else. I was just saying, I hadn't realized this had been shipped, and I hadn't realized that it was more than just a book. So I will hold up what I got, and then we can see if anyone knows what it is. So that is obviously a bag.
That was going to be my guess as well.
Yeah, you get it this game. I would presume that no one knows which franchise this is.
Is it Deadlands? No,
it's not Deadlands.
It looks a bit westerny, so
it does. So if we go back to the Doug Cam, because this wonderful playmat was donated by virtue of the Victory Condition Gaming upper patron tier. So there's that. And then let's see if the dice give it away. Try take those out.
I am none the wiser.
No, you've lost me as well.
So the
bag looks a bit military. I'm guessing something.
The bag does look military. I'm probably going to dye it black, which will probably be a disaster. And then I've got something to put some patches on.
Twilight 2000.
No, because I cancelled my pledge for that. Let's do it this way. There's some bubble wrap, which I'll try and exclude. There we go.
Yes. Oh, that's nice.
Very pretty cover.
I'd love to demonstrate how cool it looks against the core rulebook, but that's in storage along with the rest of my life right now. But it is pretty. That's zoned out as much as I can. I haven't even opened the spine yet, so let's have a little look through. Yeah, so the layout is very similar to the previous book. I really like the graphic design. It's very simple. Is it Will Kirby who did the art, I think?
It reminds me, that layout really reminds me of another RPG, and I can't quite put my finger on it.
Was it Fins?
No. Oh, it's very similar to something else that I've been flicking through recently. I can't think what.
A lot of RPG books have that sort of 2-column thing to it.
Yeah, it's. I think you can still late back for this, can't you, on GameFound at the minute? I think you can still do a late pledge on it.
It's got a scratch on it, dudes. Send it back. Ask for a refund.
So I was going to back that, but I didn't in the end, and I can't actually remember now what it is. Is it a campaign or a?
It's a source book.
Source book, okay.
They still haven't written a campaign, which is unfortunate. And I still haven't run Sins. It is on. Yeah, it is on my list of things I'd like to get to the table, but I'm so time poor when it comes to creating stuff. And honestly, my confidence isn't what it was with regards to writing scenarios. It just isn't. No reason why, because every time I've written one, everyone's enjoyed it, or at least said they have. So it really is just, I think it's a you use it or lose it kind of deal. We've discussed Sins before, and Neil and I have at least, and we both have the same little gripe with it, which is that it's an English or a UK-based writing team, yet it feels like it's primarily written with the US in mind in terms of setting, and it just feels a little unfortunate, which is, a shame, because you could easily focus that a lot more in the UK, and hopefully they'll bring out a UK-centric or a Europe-centric source book that and it just makes the world a little bit larger. But
it's a bigger market, isn't it? I mean, I understand why people do that, but yeah, I remember when the original Red Dwarf role-playing game came out, and that was written by like a joint team of Brits and Americans, and it was like there was reading through the book, and there was quite a few Americanisms like in there, and it was for Red Dwarf that was quite jarring at the time.
I've actually got that book in the room I'm sat in right now.
Yeah, they're hard to come
I nearly
by
bought
now.
it a few times.
Yeah, so I understand why people do it, but
just seems a shame to me not to take the opportunity to big up the British role-playing scene.
Yeah, I agree.
And Sins it in London, and then Americans will think it's quaint.
Quaint levels of death.
Work for my book sales.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I mean, Sins was one game that I considered for our All Hallows month. Right now, the lineup is looking like it's going to be Cult Divinity Lost. We might get some Merc Boreal in there. We have discussed maybe Monster of the Week. Hopefully, some DCC Dungeon Crawl Classics. Possibly some Mothership. Yeah.
That would be for hard.
Well, possibly some Call of Cthulhu as well. So it's down to time. I don't. We could easily promise all of these things, but there are only so many hours in the month. So it will probably be a mixture of live and pre-recorded. But with that in mind, in case anyone hasn't seen it, we'll roll the footage for our trailer, and then we'll move on to the meat and potatoes, or the nut cutlets and potatoes, depending on your dietary requirements of Kickstart Your Weekend.
We're coming for you.
I still love that. Oh, it made Paul choke. Oh.
Frightening.
There's some really interesting stuff on crowdfunding this week. And I don't know. It's a tricky one where to start, really. Maybe we should start with Bernpyle.
Yeah.
For those of you who have been following this show, recently we discussed, and that guy down there bullied some of us by just saying, "Look at this, it's cool." Which, to be fair, is what I normally do, and then I get loads of hate comments from all of you lovely people telling me I've wasted your money on more stuff. Mausritter.
Not wasted, it's invested.
Yes, I've invested the money on some like acrylic math rocks. Mausritter. And Martin, do you want to just remind people of what Mausritter is? The
yeah, I mean,
condensed version.
Do I ever do that?
Well, the abridged to 12 minutes.
Okay, yeah, I can. Okay, yeah. If you like games where you play as small creatures or small people, like things like the Borrowers or Mouse Guard or things like that, then Mausritter is a game kind of made for you. It's got some OSR vibes in there. It's a hack of Into the Odd by Chris McDowell, I think, who did Electric Bastion Land and is bringing Into the Odd soon to Kickstarter.
Yes, but being redone by Freely.
Yes, he's gone into a publishing partnership with them.
Like the original game's like half a dozen pages. It's not. It's like 20 pages or something, isn't it? It's not long.
No, and I mean his games are very OSR. And Mausritter is a hack of that. It's also got, if you look at the beginning of Mausritter, there's a whole host of other games that developer Isaac Williams, I think, goes through and says which other games have inspired it and which are the kind of properties. So it's also got an open, it's got a third-party license, which is quite open, quite similar to Mercabori. And Bernpyle is a product of that. It's been launched on Kickstarter by Matthew Morris, who goes by Mana Ramp Matt on Itch. Now, the first six issues of this zine have already been released. You can go to Itch onto Mana Ramp Matt's page. You can download 4 of them for free. There's only 2 of them that actually. They pay what you want. 2 of them have a payment, but that's, I think, because there was an artist on board for those 2, and there was an agreement to pay the artist for those. So you can see a lot of the content that's actually going to be in this. This is an annual that incorporates the first 6 zines into one. It's going to have revamped art. It's got an absolute boatload of content for Mausritter, and because Mausritter is based upon Into the Odd, it wouldn't take a lot of work to kind of rework that content. A lot of OSR games and the adventures and things that are written for them, they're very easy to convert to other OSR systems. So anything that uses Into the Odd, I think Ken uses Into the Odd. You could adapt it, but I mean it's definitely for Mausritter primarily. And I mean, I've backed it.
You asshole, so have I.
Sorry. It's shaping up to be a nice little product, I think. It's got a lot of content in there. I mean, I've backed for the reprint of Mausritter along with the adventures as well. So because all I've got at the minute is the PDF that I got in the.
Okay. Yeah.
The racial equality bundle on Itch that had a whole host of games in there, and it had Mausritter in there, and I read it and just completely fell in love with it, but I missed the initial print run of the box set. So
yeah, I backed that as well. And for me, I think what sold Mausritter for me was that we bought and painted, and since completing painting it, we haven't actually had proper time to play it. We played a little bit. Mice and Mystics, which is wonderful. And,
I mean that's got some lovely minis that you can use in this.
exactly. So I'm just thinking, hey, we can, when we want to use those minis, but we actually don't want to play a board game, we want to play a role-playing game, it would be perfect. This obviously is going to have a bunch of content for kind of fleshing that out or doing something slightly different. I think it's really cool. The pricing is pretty fair. I'm going to leave that image there because it's awesome. So £1.
There's some excellent artists on there as well.
Yes.
I mean, if you go down to the bottom, you've got Skull Fungus on there. You've got Nate Treem and Perplexing Ruins, who we talked about. Broken Luck, which was another zine on the stream. Who they did the art for that. So it's got some really nice artists on there.
We'll have a look at that after we've looked at the pledge levels.
Yeah.
So, £1, $1, support the colony. That's just a thank you. PDF of Bernpyle Year 1 and all the PDF digital copies of potential print stretch goals for $10, £8. The soft cover version of the zine plus all the other stuff is £26, but for £29 you can also get your name in there. Then you've got the £37 one. This is the one that I think we both went for this.
Yeah.
The hardcover version, because nothing says I need a melee weapon like getting the hardcover version of a book. Yeah, then you get your name in there as well. And then there's a couple that go back to previous editions of the zine. I was really tempted for about that long. Then I realized that I'm moving house, so I stopped spending money. But this one you can get a single premium print issue from the original collection, and then the Royal Cartographer, where you get all 6 the premium versions of the zine. I think that's the upper tier. It is. But yeah, this is what you're looking at basically.
Yeah. And they've gone into partnership with Games Omnivorous for EU distribution as well, who
That's
obviously,
wise.
if you follow Mausritter, Games Omnivorous are the ones that are doing the box set for it, for Isaac Williams. So, they've got some good partnerships there. And Exalted Funeral as well, obviously, they're very close to opening their UK and EU game stores now. So
yes, fingers crossed that will happen soon. Speaking of which, and I haven't actually prepped for us to talk about this, but we did talk about Herbalist's Primer previously.
Oh, that went stellar on Kickstarter, didn't it?
It's doing so well, but I do want to draw attention to the latest updates. I'm just going to bring that up on the screen. But yes, before we do that, Bernpyle, freaking awesome. If you like pretending to be a rodent and going around attacking things with rodenty swords and, being a bad ass mouse or something, check it out. How long have we got left on that as well? We should double check that as well. Scrolling up to the top.
I think it's
27 days.
Only just
so
launched.
We've got another month. Yeah, so plenty of time. For those of us who are interested in this project, this made me so happy. I don't know if you saw it, but they're doing a special edition of the cover. And I just think that's superb. It's going to be a green cover, gold foil, and a couple of ribbon bookmarks. I'm really, really hoping that what they will do as well, though, is to put a dust cover on this, which is actually the color cover of the standard edition, because you kind of want to protect that cover, and it will just make it look like the normal book, which to me actually I think is quite good. That's a little bit more in keeping with ye oldie books, have a really fancy cover underneath, and then a dust cover that's the color picture, if you like.
They did say in conjunction with that they're not actually going to put any more stretch goals down.
Yes. Yeah.
They any more money is simply going to go into printing more and doing exactly what they've said they're always going to do. I always quite like that on a Kickstarter when they set a boundary and they say no more stretch. It doesn't go on forever like the Avatar Kickstarter where it's like, hey, look, more plastic. Why why don't you have that?
We've run out of cardboard preemptively in the US just in case. Yeah. Because all of a sudden we've realized we can't deliver such a huge number of stretch goals within 2 months, even though clearly we weren't going to manage that anyway, in my opinion. Other opinions exist.
Well, that's also how Kickstarters bankrupt small companies as well, because they just overpromise. They don't do the maths quite properly. It blows up. It's really successful, and they just can't afford to do everything they promised. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and there are priors. One of the. Go on, sorry, Neil.
No, yeah, that's it.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, but unfortunately, they've got prior. Because one of the founders of Magpie, if I'm not mistaken, and Andy, one of our good friends, pointed this out to me, had involvement with the 7th Sea Kickstarter, which did exactly that, and Chaosium had to pick it up. It was like the most successful non-D&D campaign of all time for role-playing games, and they massively promised on stretch goals, and they didn't really deliver them. And here we are 2-3 years later, and it's possibly the same thing all over again. Hopefully not. I mean, I really want Avatar to be as successful as it looks. I really want them to do really well. I want everyone who's backed it to have an amazing experience and to get everything that they're expecting. It's going to be late. It just is. But hopefully it's going to be perfect and exactly what they want. But I'm kind of scared about the impact this could have for actually the whole community in a way.
Well, I think Kickstarter, from when it first launched, there's definitely been a shift. Now, I think a lot of people treat it as a glorified pre-order service.
Yeah.
And they, even though when you back, there's that warning, you're not guaranteed any of these rewards. You may not get them.
Yeah,
now it very much is.
It'll just come, don't they?
Yeah, and I think that's dangerous because it is supposed to be a service for helping people bring their artistic, their artistic thing to life. It's not just supposed to be like, hey, pre-order this, this stuff with. Oh, and if you give us lots, we can add all this extra plastic stuff on. I mean, it's like. I think Kickstarter is going through a little bit of an identity crisis at the minute.
Yeah, it really is. It has been for a couple of years. Good to see you, Bruce. We'll go through all the comments in a second. Thank you, everyone who's watching live. Sandro says, so some Kickstarter projects are a little like politicians with the only difference that they are actually likable. So true, so true. I'm going to scroll back and see what we have missed. So good evening to Andy and to Bruce Mohammed. What else do we have? Andy says that he's noticed that Paul has got some curtains this time as well as the light bulb.
All of the light right now.
What else? So Bruce says he's already filled out his survey for the dice. Does that mean he can fake harass when he'll get them? Yeah. When are my dice arriving, Neil?
Tomorrow, I think. Tomorrow,
excellent.
I think
probably finished that survey then. It'll probably happen on Sunday. What are these for?
You're just going to drive outside your house and throw dice at your window now.
I'd love that to happen. I know how far away Neil is from where I live. So, yeah, I mean, it's basically going to be all the profits from his dice Kickstarter just to drive here.
Yeah, you won't be saying that when it's rolled 3d6 damage against your windows.
Literally. No. Thank goodness for double glazing. And yeah.
That's the main reason Phil's moving, because I keep turning up at his place and throwing dice at the window.
Yeah, exactly.
As somebody with an entire fruit bowl full of dice in my living room, can I give you my address?
Well, if you've got an entire fruit bowl, then you don't need them. If you had an empty fruit bowl of dice,
it can be empty in 30 seconds flat, and you know it.
Throw them all out the window and see what happens.
Replace them all with Paladin dice? Yes, I would.
Watch Avatar closely. We will back it. We did not. Indeed. Same here. What about? Let me think here. We're talking about dice, and I know that Paul, you have some experience with handcrafting dice.
I've 3D printed a few, yeah. Nothing quite as, Paladin style or quality, should I say, because it's just straight up off a 3D
I mean, you haven't had any Paladin dice yet. They could be rubbish, but, we're presuming that that's not the case. Love you really, Neil.
Fine.
I mean, there must be a reason why you keep turning up to the table without any dice.
Sold them all.
What you can't see, because we always play online, is that I'm actually not rolling Paladin dice. I've got a whole range of every other brand.
Yeah.
Not true.
Checking out the competition.
Yeah, yes. Market research.
Yeah.
Actually, I roll the Paladin role-playing stone dice. They're my favourite.
Neil, is that how you roll?
That's how I roll.
Rolling stone dice. So, making those dice, I mean, there are a few different 3D printers around, and certainly a couple of primary types of 3D printer in the home 3D printing market. So you've got the filament printers, for want of a better term, that basically use literally a roll of filament. It's just like a reel of very thin line, and that is melted onto a bed and moves around and basically poos a 3D model. It's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And then you have resin printers, which for the most part at home, you have plastic resin that sets when you shine a certain type of light on it. And that's put in it's liquid and it goes into a bath. And then you have a metal plate which sits on top of that, and that metal plate can move up and down. Underneath that resin, here we go, here's one of those, is an LCD screen, just like the screen you'd have on a laptop, very high res, and that will project light on the areas of that plate that you want to cure, to go hard in the resin, and that sticks to the plate. And it's basically you're making a slice of a 3D model. The plate moves up and you make another slice, you cure another layer, and it just keeps line by line just coming up. And that's done with a dot matrix display. Now, what's really interesting is that Anycubic have made a decision to partner with Texas Instruments to bring another type of technology that is all around curing of plastic liquid resin using light, which is a partnership with Texas Instruments, who developed, I'm not sure if they did this all on their own or if they worked with other printing companies, or probably the latter, using a projector to do it. So instead of relying on effectively dots on a screen directly, you're projecting light through, which gives a slightly different quality and potentially a higher resolution for the size of the screen, a higher resolution image, but also means that you don't have to worry about the LCD screen failing, which they do over time. The pixels can die out, or the amount of heat that's being generated from that screen, because light is heat, just causes mechanical wear and tear effectively over time. But with a projector, that tends to be more just the bulb going, for example, and they tend to last longer. So Anycubic, who are a 3D printing manufacturer, have partnered with Texas Instruments, who we all know because we probably all had a calculator in the 1980s that said Texas Instruments on it.
Yeah, because we won't be carrying a calculator with us everywhere we go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got mine.
No, we do.
And they've launched this. I will just bring back up on the screen now. So the Anycubic Photon Ultra, which is genuinely interesting. And it might not seem like that's very role play, but it kind of is, because a lot of us are buying miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us are printing miniatures, and this is quite interesting because of the price point that it's at and the quality it seems to offer.
It does appear to be slightly more crisp than an SLA printer, than an LCD one rather than SLA, because it's still using the SLA resin, which is really cool, actually.
Yes.
I like the idea that the screens won't just burn out.
I mean, you know, not that I'm just intentionally zooming in on boobs, but, you know.
Yeah.
Not on a live stream.
Yeah.
So Andy says DLP was developed by TI in 1987, and they still own the patent. There we go. Very quickly, I'll say also, hey Jason, how are you doing? Jason has his copy of Weird Space, and he's looking forward to starting on it.
Awesome.
Let us know how you get on with that. We're still hoping to get a Weird Space actual play, but real life keeps getting in the way. It'll happen.
Yeah, although, to be fair, the latest adventure I've been working on, with another D100 times D100 table, might actually come in with like a Halloween-y type of a vibe to it.
Wow. We've got Halloween coming up.
Yeah, it's the moon of Dr. Moreau, more or less.
Sounds good to me. There better be mutants then.
You don't start off as mutants, but yeah.
Mutants. Let's have a look at this printer, shall we?
Yes. The pictures are rather impressive, although is it going to be really that crisp right out of the box? Or is it...
it probably will be if you're printing the pre-calibrated file that they've provided you, so that it definitely works with the factory calibration.
Yeah. Presuming
that there is factory calibration, which I think there should be. This is not an Ender 3 printer after all. Lifelike precision. I mean, it depends on what your class is lifelike, really, because I don't know any living people that look like a small plastic model, but, you know.
I don't know. 3 of us are wearing glasses, so our eyesight can't be that great.
That's true.
I mean, I'm squinting, so I should probably be using glasses as well. So,
in that case, spot on.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what's really interesting. This is where it becomes quite an appealing thing, apart from the quality, is that LCD screens, you know, their reference screen, let's put it that way, lasts around 2,000 hours. Paul, have you had a screen fail?
Oh, yes. 2,000 hours is a massive overestimation when you're this clumsy.
Excellent. And they add up in price by the look of things.
Oh, yeah, well, it would do if you're as clumsy as I am.
So this is why you've got no money. It's not because you haven't ever been paid, and it's not because you didn't have a successful Kickstarter. It's
I'm
because
spending it all on LCD screens and light bulbs. Oh, and curtains.
Oh, dear. Yeah, so we don't really know what they're being a little bit frugal, potentially, with figures here, because we don't know if there's going to be a replacement part here. I'm presuming there is, and whether or not that replacement part is going to be a lot. Now, one would hope it's not $700, because the printer isn't $700, and we'll get to that in a second.
Although one of our comments there is saying that problem with DLP is that it generates a lot of heat. The light source is more intense, and the light source can burn out in a few thousand hours. Well, if it's 20,000 hours, from my own experience with the Elegoo Mars that I've got, having your resin warm makes it work better. So that could potentially be a bonus rather than a negative.
Apart from the light source burning out, I guess, but
yeah,
2,000 hours.
Yeah, if it's 20,000 hours though, that's a lot. That is a lot.
I guess we'll find out. This is the first commercial, consumer-aimed DLP printer, really. So we don't really have a precedent in this market space, but I know that this is the technology that's used commercially for 3D printing. So,
Yeah, that's a very good point. Not over 25 degrees. Well, saying that, if I'm just printing minis, do I really need it to be, real to life at that sort of scale?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
kind
quite
of interested. Sorry.
I'm quite impressed with the quality I'm getting out of my old Elegoo Mars. That's it's not got like a mono screen on it. It's not got the DLP in it. It's not got anything else that's particularly posh to it.
Yeah. Martin, what are you interested by?
Who this is aimed at, really? Because I'm on the kind of I'm on the periphery of the mini kind of market, really. I tend to. I have some paints, I have some minis. If I see like a box set or something that has some minis in that I like and it's on offer, I would buy it. And to have, I probably paint about 5 minis a year, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But who is this aimed at? I see there's like just over 3,000 backers, 3,200, something like that. For people that are more into the mini side of thing, who would you say this is aimed at? Is it aimed at real enthusiasts, or is it aimed at people that would just want to print their own D&D miniatures? Or
it's way bigger than that, actually. So in terms of the kind of non-manufacturing market, there are a few avenues. So in terms of hobbyists, these are bought by not only people who are doing miniatures stuff like role-playing games and want to use miniatures that are maybe not commercially available printed. There are some really interesting websites where you can buy pre-made models. For example, My Mini Market, I think, is one of them.
My Mini Factory, yes.
My Mini Factory, thank you. Which has got some really beautiful stuff that's made by independent artists. Charge you a couple of dollars for the file, and then you just basically print as much as you want. If you're going to sell those commercially and paint them and stuff, then you can usually get a commercial license, so you can actually make some money off it yourself. The second is that, again, with regards to commercial market, there are people who will go onto those websites and actually order them printed and painted, or just printed. So you could make a small sideline by actually printing these things for other people. There are other industries where it's actually really, really valuable, and it, depending on the industry, they may or may not use resin. They may actually go for the filament printer type that I mentioned before, but custom manufacture of components for example, the automobile industry. You could have a classic car that needs a specific component, which doesn't need to be metal for whatever reason, and therefore you might print something out in plastic just so that your damn car works. DIY enthusiasts, dentists will create a mold for it. You can create a mold for a tooth using the 3D. You get your casting. You can then actually effectively photograph that, create a mold, a hard mold, which you then can fill with your actual dental resin to make your crowns, for example.
Okay. It's just because
jewelry
the page itself,
jewelry as well.
Their Kickstarter page is very much aimed towards the minis market.
It absolutely is.
Lots of minis on there. Not very much in terms of other applications. I think there's a Gundam on there. So I was kind of they seem to be aiming it at that market. Is this something that you think they may be going to, depending on the success of this, they may launch another Kickstarter for more commercial ventures?
No, I think probably most often people would obviously go for a more commercial unit, maybe something with a bigger brand name behind it, but it depends on the hobby. But those people who are already invested in 3D printers would probably disregard all the pictures on here because they want it for the tech. So they're an already captured market.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, they probably know that there are a lot of gamers on Kickstarter. You know, it's a reasonable chunk of Kickstarter's projects, isn't it? Game related stuff. So
yeah,
I guess that seems like the obvious kind of thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, from my perspective, the idea of upgrading from a screen which is very easy to damage to a projector which is not as easy to damage and is potentially going to last longer, that just means that the running costs are lower over time. You only need like one person with a printer for, I don't know, like a game shop or something like that. I mean, when I do it, I'm doing like little custom minis. I'm using Mesh Mixer to add the weapon, you know, X to miniature Y, and then create a new unique little thingy, and then go from there. So all my D&D group have got like their own little miniatures, which is exactly how they're describing it. There are Patreons that are just nothing but miniatures, STL files you can download on a month-by-month basis, and each month they'll have a different theme to it. Loot Studios have done one just recently, which is taking a complete sidestep away from the more fantasy element and doing more of a sci-fi thing as well.
Yeah,
they're covering all the bases there.
Super is. I'm going to just backpedal very, very quickly, and then we'll come back to this. Back to Bernpyle. Lovely to see Matthew Morris is here. Thank you very much for joining us. It's really lovely to see you here. Matthew's responsible for this devious creation, Bernpyle. Yeah, I'm really, really interested to see that. I haven't looked at the original zines, but yeah, Mausritter looks amazing, and I really love the style here. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Happy to gush about your project.
Yes. Now there's a sound bite that we need. In fact, we're going to put that on your CV now.
I'm always happy to gush about your project.
just Martin.
Yeah.
Martin needs a new job. We can be professional gusher.
Yeah. Oh, step too far.
Yeah. So here. I mean, I've seen Marklina of Sweden's channel on YouTube, and he does some really cool stuff. Right. I'm not sure which gauge it is. I want to say it's N gauge. Train modeling, and he gave a really nice review actually of this product. We can scroll. Pricing. This broke Kickstarter, $399. There's quite a lot of controversy about it because, and I was there. I was one of the people who failed to get on the super early bird, but they effectively they only had 100, I think, available. 300, sorry. And the entire Kickstarter broke for like 15 minutes. And they said, if you've got a screenshot proving that you tried to back this and it failed, and it has to be a screenshot of the page refusing to let you on, then we'll honor it and you can still have a discount.
Who does that?
Not me. I mean, I can prove it in my browser history. So they did send out an email basically saying, hey, you know, if you happen to have a screenshot, then we'll honor it. Otherwise, sorry. But they made a fairly fair point, which is that $399 is actually below cost. And $459 is at cost. So I kind of feel like that's reasonable.
Again, though, it speaks to this thing about Kickstarter for me, where it's starting to become this kind of pre-order store. And if you're selling something at below cost, I feel that's kind of against the point of Kickstarter, because it's to fund your creative endeavor. And if you're deliberately selling below cost, you are not funding your creative endeavor. You're trying to drum up sales. And that is not what Kickstarter is. Personally,
well, it's not. But I think from the other side of it, though, is that you kind of do need to rely on that revenue and that turnover as well. So having that transaction occur does help in terms of showing cash flow. So certainly if you've got potential investors, even if you have that at a loss, getting those 300 sales in at $400 each still, it impacts your actual, your revenue and helps you to look favorable if you've got investors or if you're trying to secure funding on something else. Anycubic obviously are a very successful company. I would presume that they've got quite a lot of profits going on anyway. But that doesn't mean that they would necessarily have had the turnover to produce this product, or the money in the bank, the profits to produce this product without Kickstarter. And actually, we were watching the Wormwood YouTube channel, Worm Life. Wormwood make had mostly handcrafted but wooden gaming accessories for lots of different like role playing, like tiles and tables and stuff. And they had their, what was he? I think it was like their tax guy was there. They were talking about taxes and turnover, etc. And he said, well, what's different with Kickstarter is that you're basically borrowing from your customers instead of borrowing from the bank in order to make your product. So even if you've got lots of profit, that's not necessarily accessible, because if you've made $8 million, but actually you've spent $7 million on setting up so that you can deliver the product that you want to deliver, and then you've got $1 million that you need to spend on actual raw resources, or $2 million on raw materials. Actually, you're $1 million in debt ultimately, but you then still need to deliver that thing. Once you've got that thing available and delivering, then you can start making profit on it. So I think that it's a bit of a tricky one, because in order to actually produce a thing, you need to have the tools to make the thing, and you don't necessarily have the tools to make the thing until you've marketed it. And in today's world, where banks are maybe less likely to want to loan you money, or they will, but the loan is going to have really hefty interest on it. Maybe for some of these bigger projects, even though the company is really well established, it's still the only way they can actually get that huge amount of investment to pull that manufacturing thing off. I'm playing devil's advocate, obviously, and I'm probably losing a whole load of viewers by talking about this crap. But
I mean, it's specifically at the below cost thing that makes me a bit wary on Kickstarter, because
that's I think in this case that's a goodwill thing. I mean, when you look at how many people have actually pledged on this, 3,242 backers, and only 300 of them have gotten below cost.
Yeah, 10%.
Yeah,
that's something that they can easily, absorb.
Yeah, I just it's a personal bugbear that Kickstarter is about funding your project, and if you're specifically offering 10% currently, it'll go up of your backers at a cost that doesn't fund your project. Then that
I do get where you're coming from there. It's like when I was looking at
I don't like that.
It's like when I was looking at the costings for my source book. It's a case of, right, so it's going to take me this amount of money to actually make this book happen. How greedy do I want to be and make it money for myself? And how much is actually recouping what I've already spent on it? Because I've already bought art. I've already put time and effort into the marketing aspect of it as well.
I don't think there's any problem with getting paid. I don't think there's any problem with getting paid from Kickstarter. I mean, if you've put time and effort in, your time and effort is worth something. It's when you're charging someone less than the amount to fund your thing. I mean, you're only doing that to drive people towards your product.
I think
like when Hasbro did it with the new HeroQuest version.
Yeah,
that caused an awful lot of rift on Twitter. Did that one? It's like, well, why on earth is Hasbro using Kickstarter for this? I mean, are they just trying to figure out if there's interest in it?
Kickstarter, I think they had their own pledge manager, but it's the same mechanism. Yeah. So
in either respect, it's a case of why is Hasbro? They've got the marketing budget behind it. They've got the research and development costs covered by the company.
I think the reason why they did that, or I can imagine a reason why they did that, is because they really didn't know how many people would really want to pay for it. and they didn't want to risk a production run.
It's like, can we ride the coattails of D&D?
Well, sort of, yeah. But the thing is that it was an expensive game. It was $150, which for Hasbro,
yeah,
that's a big ask, because they make Game of Life and Twister, you know, and news said Twitter then, by the way. But
very different game.
Their boxed games are no more than $30-$40, and here you go with Hero Quest, and it's $150. And they probably were just a little bit worried that they might, you know, spam millions and millions of dollars on marketing and putting it into stores and that old distribution and getting those parts in and everything, just for people to go, no. So I can kind of
90s version.
Yeah, exactly. So I can kind of guess why they did it. Andy had a really good point, which is that some Kickstarters are retrospective to recoup development costs, and this sort of thing. I mean, you know, this is literally going to be scientists and engineers making this. It's not cheap.
Sorry.
Go on, Neil.
I think, plus with Kickstarter as well, you've got to have something to show off that would then lead to the finished product. So for my source book of 36 worlds, I'm going to be releasing 6 of them as a teaser.
Well, then it's only 30 worlds.
It's 30 new worlds. I've still paid for the artwork and paid for the NPCs, and I've put the time and the effort into designing it and putting it together and laying it out and editing it and getting it proofread.
And you're still not even going to pay yourself minimum wage.
Of course not. It's my book.
Yeah. So
spending all my money in curtains.
One of the reasons I think in this project, and you see it elsewhere as well, for the early bird big discounts, is people, I think, like to sort of play the game a little bit of, everyone likes to see that badge saying funded in 5 seconds or funded in 10 minutes. And so if you offer a super big discount for an early bird, that gives you that badge to put on, which then makes it automatically look like a successful project. It also tickles Kickstarter's algorithm if Kickstarter sees lots of sales coming in. So it's kind of, but I think I agree with you, Martin, that it's all of that is just playing Kickstarter's game, and it's not really what Kickstarter's for. It's kind of
it wasn't what it was for. It is fast becoming what it's about, and it's an unfortunate reality. I mean, there are still very small projects on Kickstarter that need the funds. People need that money. There's a lot of worthwhile content on there. Unfortunately, things like this get the projects we love. And it's like, I kind of feel like maybe their projects we love algorithm should be targeting the lower end rather than the higher end.
No. Projects that Kickstarter loves, because they're getting 20% or whatever it is of the
no, of course, that's the
they're just being honest.
That's the reality. That's the reality of it. But really, I feel like it should work in reverse, and they should be boosting the smaller creators.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately there is another side of it, which is that we're a bunch of grumpy old white men, and we probably need to accept that the Kickstarter that we love, that we saw 10 years ago being this amazing thing for helping people get their really cool projects off the ground, has turned into a marketing machine for a lot of things. Unfortunately,
I think you're right though. Again, Martin, I'll keep telling you you're right about things.
I mean, I will never get tired of hearing that.
Kickstarter is still that, though, isn't it? Because you can go on there with a small homemade project and ask for a few £100 or a few thousand or whatever, and that still works. That is still there, and you can get word of mouth and get a bit of a platform. So I think it does still do that. It's just that it's become dominated by these much bigger projects and big companies. But it still does.
And streams like the Dark Orb are very good at boosting these smaller projects.
That's what I love about doing this show, to be honest with you, is that we get the opportunities to do that. Just hit my head on the He's having a bit of a wider gap between the desk and the bookcase. yeah, and they do exist, and we have one to talk about very shortly, actually, having already shown Bernpyle off. One other thing I wanted to mention, Jason suggests that Paul should kickstart for new curtains.
I'll make it a stretch goal in the next one.
Well, I
there's nothing wrong with those curtains. They look very functional. I mean,
they're very curtainy.
Yeah.
Now on Redbubble, we can do that sort of thing. We do have Redbubble as our partner for merchandise of Dark Orb, which is where these t-shirts came from. They do have a shower curtain. I've been this close to enabling it as an option with a Dark Orb shower curtain. I just can't bring myself to
do it.
So if you would like us to enable the Dark Orb shower curtains, please let us know in the comments.
Don't put your Dark Orbs on the shower curtain.
Yes, but if you do, I would like Paul to take down his current curtains and replace them with your shower curtains.
With a shower curtain? God, that's going to be fun in the summer, isn't it?
If somebody sends me a Dark Orb shower curtain, I will have it as a background every time I'm on this thing.
Like Phil has said, there are no freebies on this channel. You got to pay.
Yeah, I don't get freebies, so
yeah.
I don't even know.
That's not true.
Nice.
We did get some freebies, and I send them all to other people. Thanks, Paul. It's a freebie for everyone else. It cost me like nearly $100, but which is about 70, I think, in total. We were talking about small projects that we like the look of, and that they do still exist on Kickstarter. So I think we've looked at the Anycubic Photon Ultra. We should probably just very quickly have a look at the pricing for what's left, which is basically the Kickstarter special for 3,000. I was going to say then, yeah, 3,881 Hong Kong dollars, £362. That's currently the best pricing level you can get for the printer itself. Small amount of profit on that. Oh, you've got these early bird combos. Now, the early bird combos they had are kind of interesting because they're not necessarily cheaper than going for the level that you have on the printer and then just adding stuff on. So disclaimer, for now, I have actually backed for this printer with a washing station and a kilogram of resin. Might not keep that. I've been putting off getting a resin printer for a really long time. So we'll see if it comes through. If we keep it, we'll have a look at the quality. It'll be quite good fun. But
you see, what we could do for that is I'll send you a miniature that I've printed. You print one off that's the exact same model.
Yeah.
And we compare and contrast from there.
You're suggesting we have a print off?
I'm suggesting we have a print off.
Oh, yeah.
Good old-fashioned print off.
Fine.
It's going to take us 7 hours, but we're going to do it. Let's talk about this one. Duster. Occupied Hex. I really like the style of this.
Me too.
Post-apocalyptic gas punk role-playing game set in the New West.
Gas punk?
Gas
I
punk.
know.
So
I think it's got to a point now where you can just take any word and put it before punk.
Punk.
Yeah. Punk.
Goggle punk.
Coal punk.
I think it's supposed to be like Gasland's kind of westerny feel, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm imagining gas as in what we would call petrol. So a bit like diesel punk, but not diesel.
Yeah.
Wet not gas. Not like cookability, which those of us who grew up in the UK in the 80s and 90s will remember as being one of the taglines for British gas, which is domestic gas for heating and cooking purposes. The world of Duster is set in the far-flung future after our great-grandchildren, this is looking really, really cuddly, destroyed the United States with nuclear bombs and weaponized viruses, and the massive Yellowstone caldera blackened the sky. So it's a bit like now, but slightly different. Humans spent a lost age living under ashen skies, doing anything to survive for generations and forgetting about the old world. So it's a bit like now. I mean, my ashen sky is kind of, well, I mean, I feel like I haven't seen the sky for days. So weeks, months, because we're not allowed out. You know, we are actually. I'm just talking crap.
I'm back in the office now as well.
See, I'm fortunate in that I don't have to go into the office, but my commute would be about 90 minutes, 90 minutes to 2 hours if I do go in, which I can. So I'm trying to avoid it, basically, purely because I quite like the idea of not getting to work and being exhausted, which I don't miss at all. In terms of the visual style of this really reminds me of the artwork for Spire.
It does, but with like a
cover, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stone.
Yeah, Adrian Stone. Not so much this.
No.
What's the skeleton hugging? Is it a speaking spell?
Almost definitely.
A till?
Could be a till. Looks like a bit like a till. A bag of chips. But he's eaten all the chips, which is why he's
clearly starved to death. Yeah.
And that's all the seagulls over the top. You know, they're trying to get at the chips.
Is it like set in the wildlands of Morecambe then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yarmouth. I know it's the New West, so it's going to be Blackpool, isn't it?
It's Filey Punk.
Yeah.
Scarborough Punk.
Take on specialty, a bit like a class in other RPGs, with a smaller footprint on the overall character. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of the archetypes that you get in things like Zimbrum, where it's a collection of skills, but you don't really have to take those. You can take any, and it just kind of steers you in the direction of your chosen career, if you like.
It's essentially, much like Zimbrum, it's essentially a classless system by the looks of things, which I like personally. I think it's nice to be able to build your character from the ground up, and they make a point of that you can, if you want to be a, what does it say? Yeah, it gives some examples. There you go. You can be a rambling musician who's a pro at gambling, but also making explosives.
Boom!
Sounds good. So that's quite nice, I think. I like that.
I approve of that.
I think there's a lot about this project that I like. One of the things that I'm a little bit iffy on is the action point system, where it's randomized. You roll 2d6 and that gives you your action points for the round. And someone who consistently suffers from bad rolls of dice, I would not like that system, because I would be rolling snake eyes every round and not being able to do very much.
Martin, we have been proactive in addressing this by investing in the Paladin role-playing Starfarer dice. Unfortunately,
were they weighted?
Yes, they're completely weighted for randomness. But the good news is, but the good news is that you've got the red dwarf dice, which actually, and I don't know if we can very quickly find the red dwarf dice. Let me just Starfarer.
I will say though, even though I've got like that tiny little complaint, it does mention in the Kickstarter that depending on the talents that you choose, you kind of alter that economy, so certain actions become cheaper for you. So there is a section in there that addresses that, but purely as someone that rolls badly, you know, you will see this, Neil, in Spire. When you run Spire for us, you will see this, how like my rolls can consistently come in low.
I would look forward to it.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's a sentence here which is kind of interesting. which talks to what you're saying. It says Duster is about freedom in combat. You aren't limited to your movement, number of actions, or reactions. If you have the action points to spend, you can do it. But so you are limited, aren't you? You are limited to your movement, number of actions, because you can only spend. So it's kind of a bit of an odd. Well, I can see what they're getting at, because you might have a round where you roll high and you can do dozens of things and have loads of spotlight time. But then,
so
I think
on average, you're still going to have an average number of actions of, I
think combats can be boring
6,
sometimes
2, 8.
if there's lots of people doing stuff, and so particularly if you've rolled low for a couple of rounds and some other people have rolled really high, I'm worried that there might be a bit of just sitting there for half an hour and not doing anything.
There might be, but then I guess it all pays off when theoretically you then start rolling high. What I particularly like there, Martin, and this kind of means that you have to buy it, is if we look at the Red Dwarf dice, which if you can't work out which of these 2 dice is the Red Dwarf dice, then I'm really sorry. It's still the ones on the unless you've got colorblindness, in which case apologies for making fun of you and your debilitating condition. I can say that because I'm colorblind. But
cancelled.
But I can say with some confidence that Red Dwarf dice are on this page, and they're not the ones on the right. Look at that, and then if we look at the hang on,
Neil,
the color scheme for Neil for Duster.
Look at me.
What happened there? Oi!
What are you doing, Phil?
I'd never know.
This is a quality stream.
Yes, no one said which quality. Poor is still a type of quality. I mean, I just think that maybe you've been proactive in making sure that your dice match your brand new game. It was not that far off.
There's something about this. I mean, it's that artwork. There was an expansion launched for the Slayers RPG called Dust, and with the name Duster and Dust, and the fact that the cover artwork is so similar, it really does remind me of it. It doesn't sound anything like it in play. This sounds like quite a tactical game in play, and I'm sure it would balance out eventually the action point economy and the fact that different talents allow you to do different things. I think it says something about like you spend 1 point and you get 5 foot of movement. So even if you roll really low, you're always going to be able to dive behind cover at the very least. Yeah,
or try to. But yeah, so basically it's a new West post-apocalyptic. So I'm kind of thinking slightly Mad Max, but not really. There's something interesting in the FAQs. Is this game like Deadlands? Not really. It's less supernatural than Deadlands, and also it's set in the future. Is it like Borderlands? Well, similar, but again, it's set in the future on Earth, and it's not so much about having 9,000 guns and trying to work out which pair of pants is the best pair to wear, and more about theoretically having that story experience. Pricing's not too bad.
Stylish, clearly.
Yeah. Exactly. It doesn't feel very cel-shaded.
That's interesting that it says about the supernatural, because one of my other reservations with this game is in the stretch goals. The stretch goal for 11 grand is unlock the player speciality Witch-like, who use witchcraft and superstition, and then at 12 grand unlock the speciality TK, I don't know how that's supposed to be pronounced, which is someone with telekinetic abilities.
Teak, then, yeah, probably.
So the whole thing hasn't mentioned anything at all supernatural, and then suddenly you've got these stretch goals. So I'm thinking, so is there a kind of a Weird West thing?
If you look in the comments, the developer does actually, the designer does mention that, and he goes into it. Sorry, I said he. I've just assumed that.
Well, they're called Andrew, so I don't think you're going to be too upsetting.
Yeah, they do mention that, and they do say that it's part of the lore, but obviously you only unlock that if you get to a certain level of backing. So,
and I think the whole idea is as well that it's muted. It's not like something that you're just constantly being bombarded with. It's just something that exists. I think the pricing's not bad. The shipping to only certain countries is a bit of a shame, but it's kind of understandable to an extent.
No Europe, but that again in the comments is mentioned, and the designer has said that they will be looking into it. So it's not a definite no. At the minute, it's not available, but they have said that they will look into it. So,
but do they deliver to the UK? What's the?
Yeah, UK. Sorry, yeah, non-EU. UK, US, and Canada.
In Europe
they,
right now.
They say around $26 is the estimate for UK.
Yeah, which isn't great, but I mean that's kind of but that seems to be where it's going. I mean, it did cost me. It cost me nearly $45 to send that book, the Weird Space book, to the US. So that's the way it is. I mean, that's a larger book. This is more like the graphic novel size that we talked about last week. I think it's going to be the same size as your Deadlands book. It's how it looks on the screen, at least. But I like the style of it. I think it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. What have we got? Skeleton hugging a jerry can or an S Club 7 vinyl. Sure. Hope to see, speak, and spell in weird space.
Oh, I'll have it in a background of some artwork somewhere at some point for you.
Excellent. Chippy
Punk. You'll know it's because of you.
Chippy Punk. I like that. Sandra is Chippy Punk, the one where you're fighting mutated, battered Salvaloys and the Pucker Pie overlords. I like that even more.
Nice. It's when you're having to defend your chips against marauding seagulls.
The Seagull Marauders. That needs to be a group now.
Well, there's already that song, isn't there? Have you ever seen the bad lip reading of Yoda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Stop it now. Yes.
Stop it now.
Yeah.
Brilliantly bad.
I think that was all the Kickstarters that I had on my list to talk about. I don't know if there's any of our viewers, once we've got some live viewers, if there are any projects that you specifically want us to look at, then we can do that. One thing that I thought was quite cool, which isn't Kickstarter related, which was announced in the last couple of days, and I'm just struggling to find the thing for it. Some of you know that I've the intention of getting into Call of Cthulhu at some point, and they've just announced this, so I'm really pleased that I didn't buy the rulebook yet. So pretty.
That's a nice looking book, isn't it?
Yeah, that
does very interesting looking cover.
I have no interest. Sorry, Johan, but I have no interest in Call of Cthulhu at all. I will quite happily play in a game that someone else runs, but I'm not going to ever buy a book. But that book, if I was going to buy a book, that would be the book that I would buy. Yeah, that looks...
This is the book you buy to put on your shelf, so you say, of course I've got Call of Cthulhu, duh.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a limited edition of one of the Warhammer books. I can't remember which one it was now. Warhammer role-playing. In like a royal blue, and I thought, yeah, I'm never going to run this game, but I want that book.
I've never done that. I've never bought a book that I wouldn't run just because it looks pretty. No.
And you call yourself a book nerd.
I mean, I was lying. I clearly have.
Yeah.
There's the Enemy Within campaign. Talking of Warhammer, they're doing a collector's edition of that. But it's a 6-book campaign. Each one comes with an add-on book. No, 5-book campaign. Each one comes with an add-on book, so it's 10 books. So the collector's edition's something like £600, I think. Which is, I mean, even the standard edition's 300 odd. But
that's not the cheapest.
I keep looking at it and thinking I just can't justify spending an extra £300 on the collector's editions. It's too much.
I see what you mean. I mean, this was the book that I was talking about, by the way. But I was really tempted. Just
Soulbound, yeah.
But, I mean, I don't give a crap about Warhammer really. I'll play it at some point.
One
but I just like the look of the book.
They've released it and then re-released it with like redone rules as well, like the original version of it, and then I think it changed hands. I think the publisher or the developer, it changed hands, and then they re-released it again. So if you manage to get like a first edition, it's not quite the same rule set as that one. On the absolute other end of the scale, I would say that anybody who likes Troika and likes weird, surreal settings should get on Kickstarter. There are
we've got a show about Kickstarter stuff.
Yeah, they should get on Kickstarter, and they should do a search on something called Crapland 2. It's a surrealist. It's a surrealist setting in which you've visited a convenience store, and at one point you are cursed to wake up as a convenience store. And what more could you want out of a role-playing game?
I mean, for a start, I don't think we've ever really talked in much detail about what Troika even is, but it's like an OSR type game again.
Yeah, it is, and it's, I think, because the way Troika is designed, it's very much you infer the setting from the randomly rolled classes that you play as.
Okay, that sounds fun.
And the adventures, so that you buy the book, and there's no like lore or setting in there. It's very much you infer it from the classes, and a lot of the adventure books that are written for it. Again, for instance, Luke Gearing's Acid Death Fantasy, you infer the setting from the classes. So there's no like, this is what the setting is. It's like you read about all the classes and you go, oh, okay, so this is what happens in that setting. This is the kind of person I play as. And then as you play, you play to find out. Whereas Crapland 2 is very much, it's got like a kind of setting, and it's weird. It invokes those kind of cartoons that you used to have on later at night, like Daria, and get things of that ilk, like Beavis and Butthead, things where weird stuff was happening, but the people would see it in a very kind of straight-laced way. So very strange things would be happening to the characters, very surreal, absurd things, but they would react to them like it's completely normal. That person has a pineapple for a head. Why the hell wouldn't they? It's.
I need to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, Crapland, I missed out on the first, and I am sure as heck not missing out on this one. Back it if you like Troika.
So let's have a look and see very quickly.
It's like the opposite end to Avatar. You've got Avatar at one end, and you've got this at the other end.
Crapatar at the other end. Yes. So let's start at the huge pile of all the books. 10 copies. No, that's retail.
Yeah.
Still retail.
Yeah.
The books, literally all of them in print. 44 quid for all of them in print.
That's what I did.
Crapland, Bestiary, Crapland 2, PDFs as well.
Yeah.
And then all the unlocked digital stretch goals. Well, it's quite a lot of money for effectively 3 zines. I don't know how large those books actually are. It's kind of hard to see.
Yeah,
but, I mean, they look quite thick, actually, to be fair.
They've got very good design. They've got a good team on there producing. I mean, the person that's making them is not making any profit off them. One of the stretch goals is, I will finally make profit. So, they're paying the people that are helping to create this, and this is what I mean. This is the other end of Kickstarter. Okay, this you got your whatever cubic at one end, Avatar at one end, and you've got Crapland at the other end, and this is the kind of thing that personally I like to see get funded and get out into people's hands and be at a table and people just enjoy it. Really,
yeah.
That's what Kickstarter is about for me in terms of RPGs. It's just getting something on the table that you and your friends can have a bit of a laugh about and enjoy. So, and in that sense, this is excellent. You need Troika though.
Well, Jason has just said, and we'll look at this very quickly. Oh, please. Andy's saying, what more could I want? Quality, playability, rich background, and nice art. It's got all of them. No,
yeah,
it's objective.
Yeah, I mean, we can't.
Plus, I really like to terrorize Andy.
We can't all be gaming snobs, Andy.
We can. Some of us are better at it than others. Jason, attacked by his autocorrect, says Terrace Bancho Zero is the prettiest game we'll ever run.
Tensure.
No, Terrace. Bancho Zero.
Is that a different game?
Yeah, it's not the same as Tenra.
What? Play a Terrace.
Autocorrect.
Okay.
Yeah, so his phone has autocorrected that, but I just like the idea that there's a game about terraces out there.
I want
an anime terrace game. This is not Terrence Banjo Zero.
Yeah, Troika does have a good deal on.
Troika has a good deal on. Let's find that.
It's Melsonia Arts. That's
excellent.
That's the people that make it. It's for the main book and for settings. I think it's Acid Death Fantasy, Fronds of Benevolence.
The starter bundle.
Yes. Fronds of Benevolence, and I can't remember the fourth one.
That's right, because we've got it right here. So you get the Numinous edition, Fronds of Benevolence, very pretty Paleozoic pals, Permian Martians, Acid Death Fantasy. You also
the Numinous edition.
A big discount. 4 pre-written adventures, some months of no prep games, and join our mailing list.
Yeah. There's also another deal that they have on at the minute, I think, which is like a settings deal as well, where you get the setting books. I can't remember which that is. There you go, Troika Adventure Bundle. There. So if you wanted to buy them separately as well,
if you do already have the Troika core rulebook, effectively newest edition. I've not read Troika at all. I don't really have any background on that other than what little you've just described, and I have looked at it briefly previously.
I do. It's beautiful. I love it. It's one of my favorite indie RPGs.
One of your favorite indie RPGs to talk about.
Every
you need
time.
to run it. You need to run it.
I will run it. Not on stream, though.
We'll record it and we'll play it backwards.
Can find out what a bad GM I am.
Sure, you're great. If your GMing is anything near as close to your player role playing, then you're basically just talking crap right now because you're going to be a great GM. I have no doubt about that.
Phil's just trying to talk me
up. I don't care whether you do it for the stream or not, but I think it's important to say that we have evidence that you can actually role play pretty well. So, yeah.
No.
He's going to rage quit now, and he's just getting his
Neil's going to find out. Inspire. Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll see that. Yeah. 90 minutes has passed very, very quickly. I think probably it's a good time to stop and maybe it's quite late here. Maybe make a hot chocolate.
Yeah. Touch some grass.
You're going outside in this time of night?
Always. Just before I go to bed, touch a bit of grass.
Okay. This is where we find out that Martin has astroturfed his hall.
It's a Twitter thing.
I'm too old for Twitter. It's not true. We'll be back next week with some more Kickstart Your Weekend. Keep your eyes peeled for our information about our Simbrum series that's going to be coming up, Simbrum Explained, as I mentioned at the beginning. Also, keep your eyes peeled for our All Hallows Month content. Hopefully we'll have a couple of extra things in the meantime as well, maybe a couple of interviews. But until then, I think it's time for us to sign off. thank you everyone that's joined us live today. So to Andy, to Bruce, as we've seen both of you today, to Mohammed, Jason, and of course Matthew as well. It's been a fun evening. Really appreciate your time, and until the next time, thanks again, and we hope that your dice rolls are a lot better than mine. Thanks from all of us. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Good night.